Today's video will be on speed. Our learning goals for today: by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to calculate average speed, you'll be able to calculate the distance travelled, and you'll be able to calculate the time taken to travel a distance at a given speed. Okay, so some key ideas about speed. So speed is a measure of how fast an object is travelling. So if the speed of an object does not change over time, the object is travelling at a constant speed. So in cars, you may have heard of people using cruise control. That's the kind of thing that you can use in your car to make sure it maintains a constant speed. So when speed is not constant, so we might be accelerating, so going faster, or decelerating, so slowing down, we often we want to know the average speed of the object. So overall, how fast it was going, even though it's sped up at some times and slowed down at other times. So we have to take care when we're looking at units of speed, and sometimes we may even have to convert between units of speed. Most commonly though, we'll use meters per second or kilometers per hour, especially kilometers per hour. You've probably heard that all the time when you're driving in a car. The speed limits, the big sign that says 80, that means 80 kilometers per hour. So that's probably the most common one. Okay, so some key ideas about calculating speed. So the average speed is calculated using the formula that you can see there. So average speed is the distance traveled divided by the time taken. So we use an S, a lowercase s to represent speed, equal sign, a lowercase d to represent distance, and a lowercase t to represent time. So depending on the unknown value, we can actually rearrange that formula to find different things. So there's actually a little handy trick here that I learned. So if you draw up a triangle and you divide it into 3, we'll have an S down here for speed, a D up here for distance, and a T down here for time. So we can actually use that little triangle to help us rearrange this formula. So for instance, if we want to find speed, I'm going to circle it, underline in blue. So if we want to find speed, we cover that up and we look at what's left. We've got D over T, so that's our formula for speed. So we'll do that: speed equals distance over time. On the other hand, if we want to know distance, so this is distance here in purple, we can cover the distance, and what you've got S next to T, so that just means distance equals speed multiplied by time, so speed times time. And the last one, I'll use green, time. So if you covered up time, which is there, what you're left with is D over S, so time equals distance divided by speed. So if you're ever stuck, just draw that little triangle, cover up whichever letter you're trying to work out, whatever's left, that's your formula. Or you could rearrange your formula using algebraic methods as well. Okay, some worked examples here. So the first one, find the average speed in kilometers per hour of a cyclist who travels 140 kilometers in 5 hours. So we're trying to find speed. So for our first one, we're going to write our formula first. So speed is equal to distance divided by time. So our distance here is 140 kilometers, and our time here is going to be 5 hours. So just with this formula, it always has to be in hours for time. So 140 divided by 5 is going to give us an answer of 28 kilometers per hour. So that means our cyclist is traveling at a speed of 28 kilometers per hour. We'll clear this. Okay, so for B, we're doing speed again. So speed equals distance divided by time. So we've got a runner who travels 3 kilometers in 15 minutes. Oh, so if we look here, we've got 15 minutes. So we actually have to convert that into hours. So how much of an hour is 15 minutes? Well, if you look at a clock, 15 minutes takes up a quarter of a clock, and as we know, that's 0.25. So speed equals, oh, I've already written that, speed equals distance over time. I'll just write that out. And our time, so 15 minutes into hours, that's 0.25 hours. So it's a quarter of an hour. You can look at the clock there to help you work that one out. So our distance was 3 and our time was 0.25. So then what we can do is we can use our calculator to work that one out, and we'll get 12 kilometers an hour. So that's how fast our cyclist was going. Also, if you ever have to convert from minutes to hours, just use your calculator. So for instance, if you want to find out what the decimal is of what 10 minutes is, so you can do 10 divided by 60, you get 0.16667. So you use your calculator to work out what your decimal will be there if you need to. So just divide the number of minutes that you have divided by the number of minutes in the hour. So whatever your number is divided by 60, and that will give you the decimal to put on the bottom there if you're using the speed formula. Okay, so for question 2, find the distance travelled by a truck travelling for 15 hours at an average speed of 95 kilometres an hour. Oh, okay, so this time we're not looking for speed, we're actually looking for distance. So if you're unsure of the formula, remember, draw your triangle. So speed, distance, time. Okay, so we want to find distance, so we cover up distance. So if I use this colour, we'll cover it up. What are we left with? Or speed next to time. So distance equals speed multiplied by time. So our speed is 95 kilometres an hour and our time is 15 hours. So 95 times 15, that will give us a distance of 1,425 kilometres. So that's how far the truck would have travelled. Okay, so some more worked examples here. For question 3, we've got find the time taken for a hiker walking at 4 kilometres an hour to travel 15 kilometres. So time. So draw our triangle, speed, distance, time. We want to work out time, so we'll cover up time. What are we left with? Distance over speed. So time equals distance over speed. So his distance there is 15 kilometres and his speed is 4 kilometres an hour. So 15 divided by 4 will take us 3.75 hours. Now, we want to know how much that is in minutes. So in your calculator, you can do 0.75 times 60 to work out how many minutes that is, and that's 45, so it's 3 hours and 45 minutes. There you go. Okay, so for question 4, I'll clear this. So question 4, we're actually converting. So we've got 72 kilometers an hour, and we want to convert that to meters per second. So that's that's not a 7, that's a 4. So that's 72 kilometers in 1 hour. Now I'm just going to convert that into meters, so that means we times by 1,000, so it's 72,000 meters in 1 hour, which I'm going to convert to minutes, so that's 60 minutes. So I've written the same thing, I've just kind of started converting my units there. Okay, so then I want to turn that into seconds. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to multiply the 60 minutes by 60 to work out how many seconds are in 60 minutes. So this is going to stay the same, but I'm just converting 60 minutes into seconds. So how many seconds are in 60 minutes? So here I multiplied by 60. So to turn into seconds, what do I have to do? Well, I'm going to have to multiply by 60 again. So I'm going to have to by 60 by 60, which will give me 3,600. So now I know we're going 72,000 meters in 3,600 seconds, but it wants meters per second. So just like I did for my rates before, I'm going to divide so I get 1 unit in the second part. So I'm going to divide by 3,600 so that equals 1. So I know how far they're going in 1 second. Divide both sides there. And that equals 20 meters in 1 second. So therefore it's 20 meters a second. That would be my answer. Okay, for question 5, I've got convert 8 meters a second to kilometers per hour. So doing 8 meters in 1 second. Okay, so first I'm going to convert to minutes to see how far they'd run in 1 minute. So I'm going to have to multiply the seconds by 60 to get to minutes, and then I'll multiply the distance by 60 because that's how far they're going to run in 1 minute. So 8 times 60 is going to give me 400. So 400 meters in 1 minute. I think, is that correct? I'll just check that. 8 times 60. No, that's not correct. So there we go. So it's 480 meters. Let's just rub that outside again. So it's 480 meters, that makes more sense, in 1 minute. So then I want to know how far they can go in 1 hour. So I'm going to have to multiply by 60 again to turn it into hours. So 480 multiplied by 60 is going to get me 28,800 meters in 1 hour. But it wants it in kilometers, so I'm going to have to divide by 1,000 to turn it into kilometers. So that's 28.8 kilometers in 1 hour. So therefore, it's 28.8 kilometers an hour. There we go. It's as simple as that. So just make sure you sit down, think about it, work your way through. You won't always have to do steps to both sides. Sometimes you just have to convert units. So just think before you apply something to both sides. But if you're going up in time, apply it to both sides. And that's the end of today's video.